Well, I think if you work on cars and do complex jobs, eventually you come across something that's just an absolute nightmare. And this is my nightmare Zoe. So this is a 2016 22 kilowatt hour Zoe. A guy contacted me because it had it was non-drive. Basically, when you put it in drive and put your foot down, just make a horrendous grinding noise, and it wouldn't move. It would charge, and it'd do kind of normal stuff other than there was no faults on the dash to start with. So you can put it in drive or reverse, but it would just make a grinding noise. It's obviously trying to move, but something wasn't quite right mechanically. Eventually, if you kept trying to move it, it came up with some faults because it kind of get grumpy. And what it was basically, so under the bonnet, this is the motor, and then this is the reduction gear. And basically there's splines that come out. The motor shaft is splined going that way into the reduction gear, and those splines had worn. It just looked like there was just a little bit too much play between the motor and the gearbox, and just allowed that spline shaft just to move a little bit and kind of knock against the kind of splines on the inside of the cog of the reduction gear. And that meant that over time it just kind of wore that down, and then they're just kind of almost flat basically, and that's what the grinding was. The motor was trying to move, but it just didn't have enough torque to literally turn the cogs in the motor. So I agreed with the guy. I put a motor in it for him, put a second-hand motor in it, put it back together. It then wouldn't charge. It's like, okay, this is a bit weird, because it did previously when he had it, but it had sat around for a while. There was a bit of evidence of moisture kind of around this area where the ECU and 12 battery is. And the air conditioning compressor basically had a dead short in it. And that's part of the high voltage system because it's DC powered. So it's literally got an orange cable powering it there. So that had a short, and it killed part of the charging system. It shorted the charging. Which is not uncommon because that's causing a short in the high voltage system, and then as you're charging it kind of kills the charger basically. So I replaced the charging rectifier, which is the thing that literally takes the sort of main transistor block that takes the AC and converts it to DC for the charger. It then charged happily. And the guy, it was quite an expensive repair because obviously it basically had this but had a replacement motor, charging parts as well. Agreed a price with the guy. And he was happy with it basically. So, but he said, you've got to give me a few weeks to the end of the month and then I'll pay for it and I'll get the car. So I was like, yeah, that's fine, no problem. So I drove it around for a few weeks, which I kind of do like to drive these cars a bit when I've done this kind of major work, just see if there's any niggles. You can do a few miles, get them back in the workshop, have a check, and just make sure everything is all good, everything's tight, no leaks or anything like that, because it is major work. And like the reduction gearbox, you know, just make sure there's no drips on the drive shafts and all that kind of stuff, so that we're happy with it, and then the customer won't have problems later down the line. So the work's all warranted obviously, so we just want to make sure it's all done well and properly and everything. So yeah, so I drove it around for a few weeks, started feeling a bit bad because I put a few hundred miles on it, but I was like, right, okay, I'm happy with it. Anyway, the guy got it back. Basically, he then had an issue charging it. Once he'd got it back, this is about a month after I'd fixed it. And basically I got it back, changed pretty much the entire charging system, because on a Zoe multiple kind of components are involved in charging. So this is a charging filter so the charge pot's down there, the AC is connected onto this filter block here under the screwdriver, and that measures the incoming voltages and currents and checks if it's single or three phase, because these do three phase AC charging. So I changed that. I changed basically capacitors, the rectifier again, all kinds of stuff. Still wouldn't charge. The car then subsequently developed other faults. So now the DC-DC converter doesn't work, which is also in that box, within that control box. Weird things like the electric windows don't work. What else doesn't work? Can't remember off the top of my head. So it's developed sort of other faults, which is kind of weird. DC-DC's inside here. So with this evidence of moisture around here, this plug had moisture inside it. And that plug is part of the motor stack wiring loom. So the loom that's snaking around here connects to this fuse box and connects here into that kind of like switching unit. There's earths down here and things like that. And that plug onto the 12-volt battery test module there. So that had evidence of moisture and into that top plug of the ECU. So I said, okay, we can give that a go. Change that ECU, no difference. I mean, I cleaned it all and everything. Had the stack out of this car multiple times. Clean that plug, no difference. Change that ECU, no difference. Change this motor wiring loom, and it came back to life. Didn't charge, but the errors that had come up had gone, if you see what I mean. So like the DC not working, it had a red electrical failure on the dash, that kind of thing. And then we're back to, okay, now we've got a stable, logical car to work with. So I then started backtracking on the charging sort of repair that I've been doing, because it didn't charge. That's not surprised. I've changed basically like all the charger components. Maybe we've got compatibility. I'm trying to try them in every which way around kind of thing with the spare parts I've got. So I put that filter back to the original one for this car, thinking I've got a compatibility issue. And put it back in, and it's back to loopy mode. Absolutely mental. This blooming car. I fixed so many of these cars. It must have moisture in somewhere. I've now replaced, I've replaced that switching unit in case there's moisture in there, kind of thinking what's in this area that have moisture in. But whether there's moisture in the main loom of the car, it's just driving me absolutely mad. But if you've done lots of car repairs or little projects and stuff, you just come up against stuff that is absolutely infuriating. I'll show you what it does. Just connect the 12 volt battery. So there's no DC converter, but we're on the 12 volt. So we get a lovely danger message. So that's mainly caused by the fact that DC converter's not running. Lots of lovely warnings. You can actually start the car. So we get ready. Electric windows don't work, which is annoying if you put it down when they did work. Oh, that's come back to life. That didn't work before. We get various warnings. Tire pressure warning system doesn't work. So it's in ready. We can put it into drive, let's say. We can spin the motor. See, that's spinning. And that's what it does, backwards and forwards. Put it into neutral just so the motor will spin down. And I need to let that then come to a rest. It's got fault codes for all kinds of stuff, power supply shorted and stuff like that. I'm thinking, well, it didn't have the short. Well, it did have the short, and then it didn't, and then it did. Just put it back into park. Now we're back in park. Ready doesn't come back. The speed never comes up. We got all these bucket loads of warnings up here. Carry out service, check electric, check airbag, check brake lights, just check like everything basically. Stop failure. A ready never comes back. Try and turn it off. So I'm going to put my finger on there to turn it off. Yeah, slightly low, but it's got some in it. You you push button to start, and I've got the key in my pocket. So the key's in the vehicle. Obviously, we managed to start the car, but it says press and hold start. And normally with a Zoe, it would do this. I turned off that time. A Zoe normally does that when the key's not in the vehicle. So for some reason, it's not detecting the key, but then it allowed us to start the car. So it knows the key's here. So like it knows the key's here, but then when you go to turn off, it's acting like it doesn't know the key's here. Where do you start with something like this? And I've spent so much time on this car that I can't charge the customer. I'm doing it basically as a favour because I previously did a big job on it. I mean, the motor I put in it works. I actually didn't charge the guy for the labour for fixing the charging because I kind of felt bad. Because it was a big bill anyway, and I was sort of, thought I'm helping him out. Certainly wasn't helping me out. So I just charged him the used parts price for fixing the charging, and it all worked. And now it doesn't work. The motor still works. That's the best thing about it. That still spins. It didn't do it before. You can actually drive this car. So at the moment it's got no drive shaft. But if you put it back together to a suitable amount, you can drive it around. But it looks like this on the dash. Just insane. So yeah, it's just a little video that I suppose just to say we'll all come up against these kind of things. It doesn't matter what you do. I suppose it doesn't matter what line of work you're in. You will always have these nightmare scenarios. And it doesn't mean you're not good at what you do. It just means that these things happen. That's life. That's the variety of life. And that's how it goes sometimes. I need to get this car out of the way and work on something else. I've spent far too much time on it. So, yeah, but there you go. That's the thought for the day. Right, take care. Catch you later.